Hey guys, welcome on in to this video where I wanted to do a hypothetical 2020 presidential election matchup between Republican incumbent Donald Trump and Democratic challenger Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. The reason this is entirely hypothetical is because Ocasio-Cortez is too young to run for the presidency, but I felt a very topical situation and how these two platforms might play itself out between these two candidates. On the Republican side, you have that right-wing pseudo-populist message from Donald Trump, and then on the Democratic side, a Democratic socialist platform that Bernie Sanders was able to really popularize in his 2016 primary bid against Hillary Clinton. And now we can see that Bernie Sanders grassroots movement coming into these 2018 midterm primaries where some of those types of candidates are able to have success. And specifically Ocasio-Cortez, she's been taking the nation by storm. She's doing all of these interviews, going on these talk shows. And the reason she's been able to get out there and spread her message is because of just how amazing her upset win was against Joseph Crowley, the incumbent. Outspent her 10-1, one of the leadership roles in the Democratic House of Representatives. She was able to beat him by about 15 percentage points despite getting massively outspent, and she did that through going and knocking on just tens of thousands of doors, getting people to vote that don't necessarily vote in these types of primary situations, getting more people involved. And if the Democrats are going to have more success down the line, this is what you need to do. You need to have a clear, concise message that makes working people enthusiastic to go out and vote for you. This was part of the problem that they had with Hillary Clinton in 2016 and why they went on to lose important states like Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, is because it was more the status quo is good. We might tweak a few things, but all in all, we feel like things are going in the right direction, where I feel like if they had a candidate who was speaking in a more concise way on exactly what they wanted to implement and get accomplished, to have more people go out and be enthusiastic about voting for you and not be worried about maybe where you're getting your money from in terms of corporate donors, lobbyists, and things like that who might be pulling the strings behind the scene. Having a genuine, true candidate who doesn't take corporate money and you know is going to go out and work for the people in comparison to those special interests. So I think this is a note that the Democrats need to take seriously if they're going to try to beat Donald Trump in 2020. But I rambled enough there about that particular scenario within the Democratic Party. Now I'm going to go through and give Ocasio-Cortez the states that I feel would be safe to her side, do the same for Donald Trump on the Republican side, and then talk about the battleground states and how I feel like these two messages might play itself out with these two candidates, with that pseudo-populist Republican right-wing message from Donald Trump and that Democratic Socialist platform from Ocasio-Cortez. So starting off here with Ocasio-Cortez, going to be giving her Hawaii, California, Oregon, Washington, New Mexico, and then moving up into the Northeast, we'll be giving her Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and the District of Columbia. And I also forgot to point out on the right-hand side of the screen, in the upper right-hand corner, we have the 2016 electoral map and how it played out. Hillary Clinton getting 48% of the popular vote, Donald Trump 45.9%, but Trump, of course, winning the Electoral College 306 to 232, and the red states being Trump's, the blue states being Clinton's. And then below that, we have the Cook Political Report rating on the electoral map going into that 2016 election. And then below that, what I felt like was a relevant scenario here, the 2016 Democratic primary between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, the green counties being where Bernie Sanders was able to beat Hillary Clinton. I feel like Ocasio-Cortez would be able to continue to do well in those types of areas where that Democratic Socialist message really hit the hearts of these voters, and they went out and voted for Bernie Sanders despite Hillary Clinton having immense name recognition and all of the advantages that come with being associated with the DNC and the superdelegates and the political machine behind her. Bernie Sanders not having the name recognition going into that primary, but still able to have a lot of success based on his platform. So moving on here, other safe results here for Ocasio-Cortez is going to be Maine, except the 2nd Congressional District, Vermont, and New York, as well as Illinois. So that puts Ocasio-Cortez up to 190 at this point. And now for Donald Trump on the Republican side, his safer results would be Alaska, Idaho, Utah, Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, and then Nebraska, except the 2nd Congressional District, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina, and Tennessee. Moving up and also giving him Indiana because of Mike Pence running as the vice president. I feel like that pretty much secures Indiana in that scenario. And I'm also going to give him Kentucky and West Virginia, even though I feel like these states would be way more competitive with a Bernie Sanders type candidate running against Donald Trump. We can see if we look at the counties map, quite a number of those counties going for Bernie Sanders. And I believe that was with a closed primary in Kentucky. I might be wrong with that. But then also in West Virginia, pretty much across the board, Bernie Sanders doing very well. But still, at the end of the day, Trump did well enough in these states where I feel like he would also be able to carry those particular results. So the rest of this map, a little bit more of a battleground situation. We'll go through and talk about how these states might play out. So we're going to go over and start with Nevada, and I feel like Ocasio-Cortez would do extremely well here. There's a lot of Hispanic vote, and Bernie Sanders, of course, pretty popular in the state of Nevada, that message of democratic socialism, and also Nevada, a state that's becoming a bit more consistent Democrat over the past decade or so. So with that being the case, we feel like that's going to be a pretty safe result over for Ocasio-Cortez. Moving on to Colorado, another one of these southwestern states that's been moving in a Democratic direction, becoming a bit more consistent for them in these presidential elections. Clinton was able to win the state. We feel like Ocasio-Cortez would certainly be able to continue that success for the Democrats in Colorado as well. And now Arizona is an extremely interesting case. This is another one of these southwestern states that is becoming more opened up to voting Democratic. And I feel like the Hispanic votes specifically for a candidate like Ocasio-Cortez would help her get over the line. You can see that Hillary Clinton only lost Arizona by about 3.5 percentage points, extremely close there. And basically Arizona turning into a purple state right now. And with running a Hispanic candidate in Arizona, I feel like Ocasio-Cortez would be able to pick up Arizona and flip it over to the Democrats in this scenario. Now moving on down to Texas, and maybe a little bit tougher of a state to flip, certainly in comparison to some of these other southwestern states that are becoming a bit more consistently Democratic or trending in that direction. Texas, maybe another decade or so before it becomes more of a purple state based on those demographics shifting. I feel like being Hispanic or having that Hispanic vote can certainly help Ocasio-Cortez, but still at the end of the day, even though Donald Trump didn't win by a huge margin in Texas, it was by about 9 percentage points. Still, we feel like there's certainly enough of that Republican vote there to put Trump over the edge and win the state of Texas, but probably at least within single digits against a candidate like Ocasio-Cortez running on the other side. All right, now moving up to Missouri, kind of a similar situation where it really depends on the candidate whether Missouri is a competitive state or not, but it's been pretty consistently Republican throughout the years in these presidential elections. We have seen Democrats able to win statewide elections there, like Senator Claire McCaskill, for instance. But at the end of the day, even with Republicans having some issues there in the state of Missouri with their governor stepping aside, still feel like this would go to Donald Trump just because he did so impressively there with that pseudo-populist message that he was bringing to the table against the establishment, Hillary Clinton. That's part of the reason why he had so much success in Missouri. Ocasio-Cortez, with Bernie Sanders behind her and supporting her, maybe makes things a little bit more interesting, but still giving that one over to Donald Trump. And then moving up to Nebraska's 1st congressional district. And if you have the right kind of Democratic candidate, certainly a district that is very up for grabs. And I feel like that democratic socialism message and having Bernie Sanders support behind her would be able to move that particular district to the Democrats in this scenario. Now we're going to be moving on over to the Southeast, starting up in Virginia. This was a very purple state, but it's been trending much more so in a Democratic direction. Of course, the Democrats got a boost from having Tim Kaine on the ticket in 2016, but still we've been seeing Democrats continue to outperform expectations in elections since then. I feel like this is continuing to become more of a safer state in the Democrats' camp than what it had been in the past. Now moving down to 3 states that can be very competitive, especially North Carolina and Florida, for instance. And North Carolina, Trump able to win that one by about 3.5 percentage points. And North Carolina is still a state that I give a slight lean over to the Republicans, even though it is certainly becoming a bit more purple, especially in these presidential elections. But I feel like Trump would be able to continue to take the state of North Carolina. And the same reasoning in Florida, we feel like Trump would be able to grab that one as well after flipping it over to the Republicans in 2016, winning by just over about 1 percentage point. And in these presidential elections, the state of Florida, always extremely close, basically a coin flip scenario. But another reason why I would have Trump winning a state like Florida, we look back at that 2016 primary map, and particularly in Florida, Sanders did not do very well at all, almost losing every county. And even when you look at North Carolina as well, not a whole lot of those counties going for Sanders either. So going to be giving those two over to Trump in this scenario. And then Georgia, out of all of these particular southeastern states, other than Florida, it is one of the more competitive results. You have quite a large African-American population in Georgia that votes very Democratic. The population center in Atlanta and around the Atlanta area is becoming a bit more Democratic over the years, which is making this a very competitive state. We see Hillary Clinton only losing Georgia by about 5 percentage points, which was way closer than when you look at these other states in the Southeast where she lost by 10, 20, 30, even 40 percentage points in some of those really bad results. But still, Donald Trump, at the end of the day, I feel like he's able to get over the line and keep Georgia as well. So now we're going to move up into the Northeast, and this is definitely a part of the country where that Bernie Sanders platform does very well, and I feel like that's pretty straightforward with Ocasio-Cortez being able to win states like New Hampshire and even flipping the 2nd Congressional District of Maine back over to the Democrats. I feel like you need a Bernie Sanders type of candidate to flip this district back over to the Democrats in comparison to a candidate like a Hillary Clinton or the establishment Democrats, for instance. Now moving on over to Iowa, a state that Obama was able to do pretty well in, but Trump absolutely demolishing Clinton there by almost about 10 percentage points, really flipping that hard over to their side. A very white state that I feel like would probably more so vote for Trump than somebody like an Ocasio-Cortez. Kind of the flip reasoning that I have for giving Ocasio-Cortez Arizona, I feel like Trump would be able to take Iowa, which is, in terms of the Midwestern states, one of the more conservative states, maybe in comparison to some of these other Big Ten country type states. So now moving on here, Ohio, another one that Trump was able to flip over to the Republicans. And again, I feel like Trump, he has quite support there within the state of Ohio, especially in comparison to some of these other Midwestern states. When we go through and look back at the numbers, he was able to pick up Ohio by 8 percentage points, but then you compare that to some of these other results where he only beat Clinton by less than 1 point in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. We feel like Ohio would also be over in Donald Trump's category. So now moving up here to Minnesota, a little bit more Democratic leaning than states like Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, and a state that Bernie Sanders did extremely well in as you look back in that 2016 map here, where Bernie Sanders did quite well. And then moving into the 3 pivotal states right now, we have it at 245 for Ocasio-Cortez, 247 for Donald Trump. And this is where I see, at least in the foreseeable future, the presidential elections being decided are these 3 key states that Donald Trump was able to win by less than 1 percentage point, in states where that Bernie Sanders message does much better than the establishment Democrat type of message based on the primary results that we were able to see in these states, especially from a candidate like Sanders who didn't have anything near the type of name recognition that Hillary Clinton was able to have. I feel like Ocasio-Cortez would be able to win Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania because of those Bernie Sanders leanings, the fact that he would be out there and giving everything he could to somebody like an Ocasio-Cortez who lines up with him extremely similarly in terms of their respective platforms, and the fact that those states were so close between Clinton and Trump, and really you had that rebellious vote, anti-establishment type of vote in those 3 states in particular that really ruined that election for the establishment Democrats, and why they went on to lose to Donald Trump, who had the lowest approval rating of anyone in the history of the United States going into a presidential election, at least in modern days polling that we've had. So that's how I see this particular map playing itself out between Ocasio-Cortez and Donald Trump. The difference being the platform of democratic socialism, being very straightforward, open, and honest about the things that you want to give to the working class families, having them have a reason to go out and vote for you and be enthusiastic about supporting your candidacy. This is something that the Democrats need to learn if they're going to have success going into the future, not just leaning on the status quo like they did with Hillary Clinton. So that's going to wrap up this video, guys. Thanks for stopping on in. Subscribe for more. Check out all of our prediction videos over on our YouTube channel. We hope to see you back here for future videos. Bye.